スタジオ3万
This is Coasting, the theme park podcast from Nerd OD. On today's show, we take a look at the park dubbed as UKs Disneyland, more news on Pokémon coming to Universal, plus we look at the closed and forgotten rides of Alton Towers.
Hello and welcome to Coasting, the podcast all about theme parks, rides and attractions from around the world from Nerd OD. We are your roller hosts, Dan.
And I'm Reg, and as always, let's kick off the show by getting on track with the latest news.
So, first news, which is actually a bit of an update on something we discussed last week. A week or so ago, Universal Studios Japan announced that they are in partnership with the Pokémon Company to bring Pokémon-themed attractions, shall we say? Not necessarily rides, but some collaboration to their parks. And we discussed how we're not convinced that equals rides. Mainly based on that they've got a habit of doing this in Universal Studios Japan with like anime and similar attractions where they bring them in on a limited basis. They like take over a ride or they have a walkthrough. So obviously we didn't expect to hear anything particularly quick, but within a week of this announcement, Universal Studios Japan's announced that they're launching a brand new parade and Pokemon are going to be featured. So that was, I think they announced it last week. I can imagine this has been in the works for a while then. They've just kept it quiet, maybe for some reason.
Yeah. I think while I've been eyeing out who's actually going to be in the parade and how this new parade is going to take over, because parades are a huge thing, aren't they, in theme parks? So they need to make sure that it's definitely all ironed out before they actually release any information. Yeah,
you have two minds of parades. You either, this is amazing, I need to see it, and you need to line up like 45 minutes before the parade starts, or you take the opportunity to go on the rides while there's no queues.
Yeah, and I would definitely say depending on where you are is exactly where that falls into play. If you likes it, Universal or Disney, 100% have a look at the parade if you've not seen it before. But if you're in the likes of when we went to Ventura,
I knew you were going to mention Ventura.
I would happily just run and go on the rides again instead of wasting my time watching that parade.
But it was a Sesame Street parade for some of it, wasn't it? Though, and we had one of the most entertaining moments of our entire holidays, and that was when was it Elmo? Was it Grover? I think it was Grover, right?
It was Bert.
Oh, it was Bert, yeah.
Bert was dabbing.
And nearly
fell out of
over dabbed. He did a proper deep dab, and he nearly went over the side of the ride vehicle. It was it's pretty entertaining. Go and watch our video on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/nerdod. But we're getting distracted here. So the new parade, it's going to be, I mean, most of the things are already in the park. It's going to be Minions, it's going to be Sing characters, which I think Japan and Beijing are the only two parks that have got a Sing attraction. Yes. There's going to be Peanuts, Snoopy, the likes, Sesame Street, and Hello Kitty. And then, obviously, Pokemon. Have you ever seen, every year they have Pokemon Day in Japan, and especially in Yokohama, they have this big Pokemon Day celebration, and I'm sure I've sent you videos of this before, but they get about 50 to 100 people turn up in big either inflatable Pikachu costumes or proper decent ones, but it's an entire army of Pikachus all dancing to the Pokemon theme song, and it's a sight to behold. I hope that they replicate that. Osaka need that.
I mean, that would be entertaining, but judging from the press release, I think we're going to get just a lot more.
Wow. Okay.
Than that. So the parade itself is actually called the No Limit Parade, which they're doing, which is inclusive of everyone. And it's going to be going through various styles of decades of music. They've said all the way from 60s rock to modern electronic dance. So we can see Pokemon going from like ZZ Top all the way through to the likes of like Moby or Cascada or Perfume.
This is in Japan, Reg. I don't think they're going to be putting Cascada on.
I mean, I'd hope not. For some reason, I couldn't get any dance people in my head, and I was like, I know dance.
Yeah, get some Yasutaka Nakata on, or get some Perfume, and that I'll be there. I will definitely be there.
There you go. Excellent. So I think it's going to be awesome. If any the big parks pull them off 100% all the time. So I've got a feeling this is going to be an incredible parade.
Yeah. I'm just the thing that makes me curious is is this about the limit? No pun intended, because the parade's called No Limit. The limit of what we're gonna see with Pokemon, or like at the moment, it's looking like what I was saying last week is going to be right, where they're just going to bring them in for little things, but is there going to be an actual Pokemon attraction? Still nothing more about that, unfortunately, other than that it is a long-term partnership promised to immerse guests in the world of Pokemon with innovative technology and creativity, which to me just sounds like a parade, a walkthrough, and a Pokemon Go collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, we might get a reskin of a ride for a while with like the virtual reality, that type of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I was going to say, seeing how it's starting off, I don't think it's going to be like an addition to the park like Donkey Kong Land.
No, they kind of don't.
We're not going to get anything huge.
No, there's not going to be anything huge, I think, until Donkey Kong Land opens. It feels like there's, so I think if there are any new rides, it's going to be a way away. In other news, so this is something that I'm constantly, because Google learns what you like and what websites you look at and things like that. Whenever I go onto my Google homepage, obviously it suggests you news stories, and I can count on maybe if I had 10 hands, I still wouldn't have enough. The amount of times I see a news story from all sorts of different websites and newspapers and things saying the UK's Disneyland coming soon.
Yeah.
And I just hate that phrase. I know exactly what it is every time I see it. It's the London Resort. So the London Resort, for those who don't know, it's a new theme park that they're going to be potentially, hopefully, probably building on a peninsula down near London, and there's been all sorts of problems about it. I mean, it looks, in theory, it looks amazing. Okay, the planning and the artwork, and it looks like there's going to be an awful lot there. They've got 2 parks planned. They've got a gigantic hotel with like 3,500 rooms. A shopping district, everything that you would expect from Universal and City Walks type thing. They're trying to replicate in the UK. So it sounds very optimistic. Hopefully they pull it off, but there's been the reason it's sort of constantly in the news and still hasn't broken ground is because it's on an environmentally protected area, and there's been lots of protests, or at least people writing their local MP saying don't build this here because you're gonna have to rehouse all the ducks and stuff. And apparently that's all been ironed out to the government's satisfaction, and they can hopefully break ground in 2022. But there's been a bit of an update in terms of we still don't know what is going to be there, other than there's supposed to be 4 or 5 different IPs involved. Supposedly Paramount are involved, which
they've pulled out.
Oh, okay. The latest news story I saw was this, because there was supposed to be a big Star Trek land planned. But... Yeah.
So they were originally going to be sort of own it in akin to the likes of Universal and Disney. It was going to be London Paramount Entertainment Resort.
Originally, absolutely, it was going to be Paramount Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then it sort of dwindled a bit due to all the issues and backlash that were coming. Paramount sort of pulled a little bit further back, and then eventually completely pulled out the project.
So they've even lost the IPs now.
Yeah, so it's now going to be all original lands, so to speak. Okay.
We've still got supposedly involvement from BBC, ITV, and Aardman, who do Wallace and Gromit and the likes.
And they've just announced earlier this year as well that they're going to be doing a dinosaur-themed base camp, which sounds awesome because they're going to have a triple launch roller coaster, which is going to be amazing. It goes up to about 70 mile an hour, I think it was.
Fair enough.
And it's based on I'm going to get the dinosaur name wrong because it's been a while since I think I remember it. It was the Quetzalcoatlus or Quetzalcoatlus.
Reg, you've got a 3-year-old. Surely you know all about dinosaurs.
If it's not a raptor or a T-Rex, to be fair, there's not really a great deal. that I know about.
It does look like they'd had all these grand plans of all these different. I mean, it's maybe while it was Paramount to be like, right, let's have Star Wars, let's have, I don't know, loads of different IPs. So and now they've just gone, let's go generic, generic Starport, let's have generic Jungle, generic Dinosaur Land.
Yeah. So basically, they've done this. I think they're going to still crack on with the whole idea of what they were going to do.
Yeah.
But they're just going to have to take off the official license thing. So so it will be, instead of Star Trek, it'll be Star Walking. So like
Star Journey.
That type of thing. So, but at the same time, it could be good because your property will never go out of style or out of fashion. So it's nice in aspect. Like we were talking the other week about Jumanji. It's great. Too late. But this, it's not going to have any issues like that now. It's just going to be very generic, and you can keep swapping and changing. And when they do spark deals off, they'll be able to, retheme rides and that sort of stuff come through. So I think it's good in that aspect. I don't think you're going to have the big names to pull in people like you would do. Like Universal have Harry Potter, or Disney obviously got Mickey and stuff like that. They haven't got anything now to be like, oh my god, I can't wait to go on that Mission Impossible ride that's not there.
No, but even like
Doctor Who or some rubbish from BBC.
There's an awful lot of rides that have opened in the last 5 to 10 years that though they've really tried to rely on IPs. There are parks like the likes of Alton Towers and whatnot who do open they've opened roller coasters that have got no tie-in, but then they've relied on CBBS and they've relied on Gangster Granny. Blackpool has already got a Wallace and Gromit ride and things like that. So I feel like theme parks are. I mean, maybe there's. I mean, I'm sure that there's research on this that says, look, even the most average ride can be saved by having an IP attached to it. So I'm not sure that they, and plus I guess maybe even the money, whether they get investments from these people or whether they have to pay for them, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a cost saving thing. Maybe they're like, if we don't have to pay Paramount for Star Trek, then we can spend a lot more on the theme park. But it's dangerous for a new park. There's not a lot of new theme parks that have opened in the last sort of 10-15 years that have been incredibly successful. Do you remember the Hard Rock theme park? I think it was in New Orleans. And it built, it opened from scratch. It wasn't an old park that they did up. It was brand new. A couple of roller coasters, a water ride, a load of fairground type rides, and no one went. And it was, it died, and then it got flooded, so they just never reopened it again. But even without that flood, it had already just completely fallen apart. People tend to go to what they know. So this brand spanking new theme park, I feel like it's going to have something really special to drag people to it, but that's where IP saves it. So I don't know how that's going to go if they don't try and get these deals back.
Yeah, I think we're going to be saved because we don't really have anything huge over here. So I think it's going to be nice to actually, we've got Alton Towers Thought Park, to a lesser extent Chessington and stuff. But having something of this scale,
but there's a reason that we've not Disneyland in France.
Now, granted,
so they built it near Paris because they were looking, what country do we build this in, and the UK was an option, but they decided the UK was no good because it was it'd be too seasonal. It wouldn't be able to open in the winter and all sorts of stuff. So not that France is that much better, but they wanted somewhere, nice and central for everyone from around Europe to be able to get to. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's going to drag people from abroad. It's going to be, a UK sort of destination, I guess. UK holiday destination, maybe. Yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm hoping it's not going to be a massive flop. It's nice to have, like you say, another park. I mean, we've all done for UK people like me and you. We've done the likes of Flamingo Land, and me and Shell went to Drayton Manor and a bunch of other parks, and none of them have quite got that same level of, I guess, quality as some of the Merlin parks. So it would be nice to see, like you say, to see something built from scratch, brand new, that is just ready to go and amazing. I'm not so sure this is going to reach the levels they think it will. Maybe I'm just being negative.
Yeah,
I mean, I am, but yeah.
I think it will to begin with, but it's not going to have a long haul stay to it. I don't think. Like you said, there's when you think I need to go somewhere, like the brand or the IP comes first. Like oh, I can't wait to go visit, the London resort. When you come to London, people don't come to London to go in a theme park. They come to do the sightseeing destination tour. So it's all relying on ourselves that are going to be going over to have a look at it. But you will go to the likes of Florida to go do Disney or Universal or Six Flags.
It's south of London, isn't it, as well? So
it is.
The majority of the country is sort of, you've got the barrier of having to get in or around London to get to it. Like when we go to, we always think, oh well, Thorpe Park, Chessington, they're all sort of London area, but they're way before you hit London, so you can get to them from the northwest in like 3 hours, which is not entirely unreasonable. Whereas this, when you add that extra trip around the M25 on, you're talking another sort of an hour and a half, couple of hours to get to it. So it starts to be a bit more out of reach for the northern part of the country.
Yeah, you 100% need to stay over if we're going to go there. There's not a chance you can do that.
Well, at least they've got 3,500 hotel rooms.
Very true.
But there's going to be 2 parks as well. There's going to be a water park. In fact, I don't know whether this article isn't clear, but it says there's going to be 2 parks, whether that is one theme park and one water park. But they expect the first park to open by 2024, which is incredibly optimistic.
That's cutting it so far. And if they're not going to be cracking on with work until next year, we've got 2 years to actually go in and do it. That's ridiculous, especially for the size of it as well. There's no chance. Like, I know they're going to be doing the first gate in 2024 and the second one in 2029, wasn't it? Is what they were expecting to do.
Yeah.
But there's no chance. That's easily going to get pushed back to at least 2026, maybe 2025, 2026. There's no way they're going to open that up in 3 years. It's a hell of a lot of work to do.
I'd be very surprised.
Hell of a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
That's just great.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're just being very negative against this. I would love to see this succeed.
Yeah,
because like it looks like an Islands of Adventure quality theme park.
I would love to have a theme park that will have the feel of a foreign theme park, because the UK theme parks are great, but again, due to like height restrictions and that sort of stuff, like you always feel like you're not getting your full bang for your buck. Whereas I think this, due to the sheer scale and size and what they've got planned, I think you will get like a really spectacular feeling when you're inside it. Like the feeling that you're in a big theme park, like an outstanding place to be. Like the excitement, I think, will buzz around. And I don't get that from the UK parks for the big part of it. And I think it's due to the fact that, the rides never really look that tall. They have to do a lot of engineering to try and make sure, like so, Oblivion, for example's sake, instead of having like go even higher.
Alton Towers having to stay under the tree line.
They have to stay under the tree line. That sort of stuff. It's like, you miss part of the aspect of going, oh my God, look at the size of that.
Yeah, but is it? I mean, maybe it is the scale, because you're right, the only park that sort of is allowed, at least big park that is allowed to just build whatever they like in terms of height, is something like Thorpe Park. But Thorpe Park is so tiny that it just doesn't, like you say, doesn't have that feel of scale. When we went to Port Aventura can, I mean, again, they can build whatever they like. Red Force, the stealth alike ride. It's just, I mean, it's insane, the height of it.
It was, front row on that was insanely good.
Just an amazing experience. But it is the sort of the scale of it. I remember, getting there and you guys just being like, okay, I'm feeling Florida. I'm actually feeling a little bit of Florida here.
Exactly, yeah. And it's great because you walk in, you've got the mascots everywhere. You've got you can't see one end to land to the other to be like, right, okay. You've got it's going to be a full day park, and that's the fun in it. Whereas our parks, unless you go to a weekend, you can easily box off most of the attractions before dinner.
Yeah, but is it just because we've been to them so much that's how we feel now?
No, Thorpe Park easily. First time we went, we did all the rides in like the morning because it is so small. And it wasn't busy because we went in the week. So you need something big like this where you I can spend all day here and hopefully come back the next day because you missed out on stuff because there's going to be so much stuff to do.
True. I don't think I've ever been to any of the Florida parks or PortAventura or anything like that, or Disneyland Paris, where I've done the day and I've gone, right, I'm happy now. I'm always like, yeah, we need to go back for at least another half a day. I want to go on that again. I want to do this again.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I think you might be right. You might be right. Okay, well, talking of Alton Towers, this is a new segment that we are going to be calling. You named it, Reg. Go on, you do the honours.
Derailed.
And essentially, we're going to be looking at occasionally closed down, defunct rides at some of our favourite theme parks around the world. Some parks open a ride and it's there for 15, 20 years, and then in the case of the Incredible Hulk roller coaster, let's say, Universal Studios were like, we really like this ride, but it's old now, so let's just pull it apart, tear it apart, and rebuild it brick by brick, track by track. And they just recreated the exact same ride because it is so good and people love it that much. Yeah. Some theme parks just go, right, this is old, let's get rid and let's just build something new. Alton Towers, I think, is one of the worst ones for this. 100%. Because when you go down this list, I think you'd be surprised at how many rides that they've sort of closed down and replaced. So, I mean, in terms of, let's go backwards. So, Wicker Man is the latest big ride at Alton Towers, and that sits right on the old location of the Flume, the log flume, which was there for, I mean, since I remember. So it's got to be at least sort of 25, 30 years. Back when I remember first going, it used to be just a straightforward sitting in a log flume. But then as you go into the forest, there were giant dinosaur statues.
Yeah, it was amazing.
For no reason. Absolutely no reason.
I'd love to know the idea for where that came from. Did they just be like, shit, we've got some of these like spare dinosaurs from Drayton Manor or somewhere, like, tell you what, let's pull these in and just stick them here? Because they've never had a dinosaur-themed attraction, as far as I'm aware.
There was, so when it opened as a theme
Dinosaur
park,
Land.
Dinosaur Land was basically just that. It was just like a walkthrough with not even animatronic dinosaurs, just dinosaur statues.
Oh, there you go. That's where they were from then.
Yeah. So that closed as a land in 1983. So 2 years later. And they were over where the black hole was. So they then moved them into the forest. They were clearly like, we spent a lot of money on these dinosaurs, let's put them to some use.
Just a nice little Easter egg, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so. And I wish they'd kept at least one there, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, that would have been amazing when they're going around in the ducks.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. So it used to be nothing to do with ducks. Then they got sponsored by Imperial Leather, who are a British soap company. And suddenly they turned the logs into bathtubs and they put ducks everywhere and, squirting water at you and all sorts of stuff. And then I think Imperial Leather even dropped their sponsorship, but they just kept that overlay for it until it closed a few years ago for Wicker Man to be built.
It also had one of the catchiest theme tunes for when you're just walking around a ride as well.
Don't start, Reg. It'll be stuck in my head and tired. Thank you.
There you go.
And a great little quiz when you're queuing, even though the queue was never big enough to stop. It was all these duck related questions as you go around. It was great.
It was. I loved it.
Yeah. Now, in terms of water rides as well, there is another water ride that I know of at least 4 versions of this ride. They over the years they've just never been satisfied with it, so they keep changing it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
I'm talking about Around the World in 80 Days, Toyland Tours, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Alton Dungeon.
For some reason, I completely forgot all that existed after Toyland Tours. But yeah, it's a shame
when I used to go as a kid, it was it was Around the World in 80 Days.
Yeah.
And not that I remember much about it, but I remember it being that. And then they turned it into Toyland Tours, which
was amazing.
You know, it was amazing because it had Sonic the Hedgehog on it. Mm-hmm. There was a Mega Drive section. You went into this one room, and there was all these TV screens just showing Sega games everywhere, and then a gigantic Sonic the Hedgehog standing on top of a Mega Drive, waving his finger like he does at the in the opening logo.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And then they tore all that out and changed it to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was the fun thing about the Charlie and Chocolate Factory ride was that it had the boat ride where you actually, so that ties in with the film and the book because, you've got the actual ride from that. And then it would end and you would get out and you would get into the Great Glass Elevator. And it was a very bizarre sort of concept for a ride. It was just a glass elevator as you'd expect, but it was on some sort of moving platform, so it would move a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit left, a little bit right, but then all the walls were TV screens. So it was weird. It didn't quite work very well because unless you were looking dead straight on as you flew through the factory and out the roof and all that, it just was a little bit disorientating because the screens would go into corners. It wasn't even like a curved screen. It was just these literally 4 screens. Yeah. So it was very bizarre. But it was a nice little addition.
It's what always made the ride that, though, because just seeing if you could remain standing as the lift was moving, I just always remember nearly falling over and just laughing so hard at it. It was just great. Yeah. Really had fun times on that one, to be fair.
Yeah. But now it's gone, and it's been replaced by a paid attraction, which is the Alton Dungeon, which is essentially a carbon copy of every other dungeon attraction that is in the UK: the Edinburgh Dungeon, the York Dungeon, the London Dungeon. Apart from it's got the boat ride still, but it's just the one thing they've never changed is the actual boat ride. It is exactly the same path since day one when it opened. When Around the World in 80 Days open, it's just the theming that's changed. When you go through like a torture chamber and you see people getting hanged, it's all the normal grim dungeon stuff. And then once you're off that, you go into the normal dungeon. If you've ever been on one, it's just it's actors sort of telling you stories about the plague and all sorts of stuff throughout history. Now, in terms of rides, do you remember the Thunder Looper?
Yeah.
I only remember going there twice and it being there. And one year it just disappeared. And I had no idea why. It turns out it was because of the tree line rule. So Alton Towers, you're not allowed to build higher than the tree line. And this was quite a tall ride. And it was just one of those standard rides. Shoots you off, round a loop, up a hill, stops at the top of the hill, and then goes backwards, back through the loop, and then back up another hill, and then back into the station.
That was my first proper big roller coaster that I went on when I was old enough to actually get on big roller coasters.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't want to do it at all. I wanted to do the Nemesis, and my dad was laughing so hard. So my dad only ever took us to Alton Towers twice. Because he had an accident with his back, so he couldn't go anymore, but he was really excited to go the first time because he really wanted to do the Thunder Looper and the Beast as well next to that. So
the Beast, which was basically the black hole, just not in the dome.
Yeah,
it was almost exactly the same.
So I wanted to go on the Beast, he wanted to go on the Thunder Looper, but I had to go with my dad to try and get past the people because I was just slightly under. So my dad was like, I'll take you on it if you come on the Thunder Looper with me. And I'm like, nah. And I remember nearly having a breakdown on the way in because the same as we'll go into this probably in another pod, but I've got a fear of the pirate ships. Right?
Okay. Right.
Because of the bar, isn't it? I just feel like I'm always going to come out. And the Thunder Looper was the same. It was just like, hey, here's a bar in front of you. It's going to come not all the way and lock you in. It's just going to be there for you to hold on to if you need it. And that was all you had. And I just remember going no. And then I was saying to my dad, I don't want to die today. I really want to go on the Beast. And my dad's like, you're not going to die. Calm down. It's all right. And my brother was just like, nope, I'm not even getting involved in this. I'm going off. Mum will hold the bags. And I was like, oh God. And I just remember from my dad will say he's still got the nail marks in his hand from me really, really. I must have been about 10, 11 I think at the time. And I was just like, I'm going to die on this. And then when we first started going around the first loop, I just remember literally putting my face in my dad's chest to be like, oh, I can't watch this. And then I come off it and was like, that was amazing. Can we do it again? And my dad was like, I'm not queuing up for an hour to get back on that again. Let's go do the beast. And I was like, oh.
It lasts 12 seconds, Graham.
Yeah. But I just remember not liking it at all. But
my story's similar in that I reckon I was about the same age, or at least the same height, because I was, well, I don't know whether I was too short for it or just about right, but I went and queued for the Thunder Looper, and I was like, I'm not going to get on, and they let me on. And then the Black Hole, which is the next ride we'll talk about, was exactly the same height restriction. And I'd just been on Thunder Looper, so I marched up and I was like, bit of swagger in my step going, yeah, I can go on the big roller coaster now. And they were like, you're too short. Like, I'm not. I'm just the guy at the other ones just measured me. I mean, I didn't argue back. I was like 11. But I remember being so disappointed I couldn't go on the Black Hole, but I could go on the Thunder Looper, which was weird to me because one goes upside down and the other one really doesn't.
No.
Just so yeah. The couple of years later, we went back, and I got to go on the Black Hole, and then they closed it. And I mean, the Black Hole was a very, very standard in the dark roller coaster. Just in it, and it goes to show the sort of the expense that Alton Towers don't go to with a lot of rides. It was just a big tent. I remember it used to be this green and yellow circus tent with the ride inside. And granted, sunlight didn't get in, so it was dark, but that was it basically, wasn't it? It was just a standard sort of, in fact, it was you sat in a row, you sat in a column, didn't you? You didn't sit next to anyone.
No, it was
like a log flume sort of layout.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they closed that and replaced it with Smiler. So, I mean, the impressive thing with Smiler that I've always thought is how they get that much ride fit into that small area that the Black Hole used to be. But I do miss the dark, a ride like the Black Hole, a nice dark coaster on Towers, especially because it's another one that doesn't need height, so it's perfect for that sort of theme park.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember the first couple of times we went on it. It always used to have the spacemen and the astronauts and stuff all around. You could look at the stars and stuff, and then you could tell it was just sort of falling apart when.
And they just didn't bother.
They just got it. Yeah, they got rid of them all, and I'm like, oh, right, okay. And occasionally you'd see like the odd light that was supposed to be the star, and you're like, oh, right, there's one bulb working then. Whee! As you're going around like. But we had so many fun photos from the Black Hole, me and you. It just genuinely had such a ball on that ride. Such a good ride. I loved it. So completely gutted that's gone. Yeah,
and just to sort of finish this segment off, it's not just rides that they have a habit of getting rid of or replacing. It's actual whole themed lands. So where Rita is, and it used to be the Corkscrew. In fact, we haven't even talked about the Corkscrew.
The most iconic ride
to be said about it. It's so iconic that they took the actual Corkscrew loops and put them at the entrance to the park. But that was just again. I mean, that was probably was the first roller coaster they had there. I don't know for certain, but at least the one that I remember when I first started going. But that whole land at one point got themed to like cavemen. They renamed the ride. Yeah, Ugland. They renamed the ride Energizer to the Bone Shaker because bones. That's all caveman like. They wear bones in their hair on the Flintstones, so let's call it the Bone Shaker. Kept the Corkscrew, but just sort of made it look like the Flintstones basically. And then a few years later, they opened Rita, and I think while they didn't retheme the land, they just got rid of Ugland as a name. So Rita is the blast off ride. It's one of these 0 to 60 in 3 seconds or whatnot. And then a few years later, they built 13, which is like a decent family coaster with a little twist, like a drop bit and all sorts of stuff. But that is very sort of dark themed. So they renamed the whole area the Dark Forest. And the funny thing is, Rita just doesn't fit in with that at all. Rita had this sort of,
not at all.
This drag race sort of theme to it. But they really tried hard to shoehorn the theme in, and then they went, let's pretend that, a load of like hideous trees have taken over the land and everything. So all they did was they just made it look dirty and put some vines
pretty
on it
much.
and changed the intro, which was one of these, 3, 2, 1, go, to like this whole "you must escape." Just no reason. It's a very bizarre decision, but yeah, they just sort of. It's almost like they were like, right, we need to rename this land. Cavemen, yeah, great, okay. What about now? Yeah, okay, let's call it the Dark Forest. So that's something that Alton Towers just aren't good at. Naming, theming, and keeping the themes of lands. But,
yeah.
Oh, and just the final swan song, appropriately. The Swan Boats. One of the most iconic rides ever at Alton Towers, which was just a little lake that you went around in a swan boat. You couldn't even control it yourself. It just took you around a little track. They took that out and they put in Battle Galleons, which is probably the least used ride at the entire theme park because it's only ever got a queue when it's hot, which is like 2 days a year. So yeah, I'm sure that was a good decision.
I remember queuing up for 45 minutes to get onto the swans.
Wow.
Because we thought something was going to happen.
You thought something was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not even like, it's not behind a fence.
Nope.
You can see that there's swans that just go around. What were you expecting?
I have no idea, mate. I have no idea at all. I just remember my auntie.
Were you like 8?
Yeah, I went.
Okay,
this was the time I went with my aunt, and it was the haunted house was the actual haunted house, not Jewel.
Oh, before they put shooty guns in it.
Before they put shooty guns in.
Yeah.
And I just remember going on that and getting the photo, and my cousin was like having his head in his hands, and he was too terrified to look. My auntie just looked scared, and I was just laughing on the photo. And after it, my auntie was like, "Oh, I think we need to go on the swans because there's a big surprise on the swans." And I was like,
"Oh, okay.
Is there?"
That was just her way of convincing you to go on it.
To like calm down. And she was like, "Yeah, look, something's going to happen." And I was like, "All right, let's go on it." So we queued up for, it felt like the rest of the day, but it was about 45 minutes. And we got on it. And she was like, "Wasn't that great?" And I was like, "No, because I want to go on more stuff like that's good." But hey ho.
Oh,
at least I got to go on it before they got rid.
Yeah.
That was there for
absolutely.
ages. So from 1987 until 2003.
Right, well, that's it for another week. I want to go to Alton Towers now, but I want to go to Alton Towers 20 years ago.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd like that.
Absolutely. All right, but thank you for joining us again. We will be back same time next week, every Monday, for another episode of Coasting. And if you'd like to give us a follow and a like and a subscribe, we are everywhere, all the socials, as NerdOD, NERDOD.
We are indeed, and we hope you have some suggestions. Throw them our way, and we'll happily talk about them on the next podcast.
Anything you want us to look at, anything you want to talk about, absolutely, let us know.
As always, it's been a pleasure, never a chore.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next week.
Toodles.
Bye.